The celebration aboard the Starborne Citadel shimmered with drifting lights that looked like fragments of distant nebulae, each carrying a faint gravitational pulse that gently tugged at Ethan Hale's sleeves as he moved through the hall. He had attended diplomatic receptions on 12 different worlds, but none had felt as strangely intimate as this one. The Aethyrian sovereignty didn't merely host events. They curated experiences designed to lower defenses, loosen tongues, and reveal truths even diplomats didn't know they were holding. And for some reason, Ethan found himself actually relaxing. Maybe it was the music, a soft, harmonic resonance produced by crystal towers that responded to emotional states. Maybe it was the architecture, arched corridors grown from self-shaping starlight ore. Or maybe it was the queen standing beside him, her presence both grounding and overwhelming in equal measure. Queen Aralyth Xyra didn't look like any ruler Ethan had ever met. 7 feet tall, posture fluid like drifting cosmic dust, her skin glowed faintly with shifting nebula patterns beneath the surface. Violet filaments one moment, soft blue star clouds the next. Her eyes changed color with emotion, though Ethan wasn't yet fluent enough to read them. Right now, a tranquil dusk blue shimmer suggested either contentment or polite endurance. "I anticipated far more resistance," Aralyth said as she joined him on the balcony overlooking the ship's panoramic starlight viewport. Her voice carried a faint harmonic undertone, as if the stars themselves were helping shape her words. "Your people were described as fiercely protective of their trade authority." "Trade authority is important," Ethan replied, accepting the glass of Lumeris she offered. The liquid glowed like distilled moonlight, warm and strangely soothing even before he drank it. But survival in the galactic marketplace matters more, and Earth doesn't survive many conflicts it can't win. Aralyth's lips curved in a soft, thoughtful smile. "Pragmatic, refreshing. Many delegates perform aggression as a negotiation tactic. You do not." "I leave performances to people who enjoy them," Ethan said. The queen tilted her head slightly, nebula light rippling along her cheekbones. "And do you enjoy this?" she asked. Ethan hesitated, taking a sip of Lumeris. The warmth slid through him like honest truth melting the edges of formality. "Yes, surprisingly, yes." Their conversation drifted, from trade routes to cultural philosophy, from political alliances to personal dreams. Aralyth spoke candidly about the burdens of solitary rule, the constant pressure from nobles urging her toward strategic marriage alliances, the endless expectation that she must be both invulnerable and endlessly available. Ethan had never imagined a monarch admitting loneliness, yet here she was, cosmic and powerful, confessing truths that felt fragile. "It's difficult," she said softly, looking out at the stars, "to know who sees me and who only sees the crown." Ethan studied her profile, the elegant curve of her astral horns, the quiet strength in her posture, the starlight shifting under her skin. Something stirred in him, something honest, something reckless. "I see you," he said before he could stop himself. Her eyes brightened to a warmer hue, not shock or dismissal, just curiosity, encouragement. The Lumeris made his thoughts drift upward, filterless. Words rose to his tongue without diplomatic restraint. "You'd make a cute wife." Silence struck the balcony like a gravitational collapse. Aralyth froze, not in offense, but in a stillness so profound the air itself seemed to wait. Her eyes shifted rapidly, dawn gold, then molten silver, then a deep ceremonial violet Ethan had never seen. Other Aethyrian guests paused, subtly inclining their heads. The resonance towers lowered their pitch as if recognizing a ritual trigger. Ethan blinked. "Wait, no, Queen Aralyth, I didn't mean." "I accept," she said, 2 words, soft, calm, devastating. "You accept what?" Ethan whispered. "Your proposal." She stood with the effortless grace of drifting starlight. "Your offer of marriage." "My what? No, I wasn't proposing." Ethan half choked, half coughed, waving his hands like a man trying to physically erase sound waves. "I was just talking." Intent did not matter. Context had already sealed the interpretation. Aetherian witnesses began humming low, harmonic tones of formal acknowledgement. Humans looked around in confusion. Ethan felt his pulse spike high enough to leave his body entirely. Aralyth lifted one hand, the gesture precise and unmistakably royal. A signal, a declaration. "People of the sovereignty," she announced, her voice amplified across the hall, "I accept the human envoy's marriage proposal. Preparations for the compatibility verification period shall begin immediately." Aetherian nobles cheered in melodic crescendos. Ethan didn't need anyone to escort him. He was already drifting through the hall like a man whose soul had partially evacuated his body. Human diplomats whispered urgently into comms. Aethyrian nobles hummed celebratory harmonics, and somewhere in the middle of it, Ethan was trying to remember how breathing worked. That was when High Seneschal Vorel found him. Vorel's ceremonial robes trailed behind him in a slow curl of astral dust, the fabric bending surrounding light into soft arcs. "Envoy Hale," he said with formal precision, "please accompany me. The binding contract has been activated." Ethan blinked. The what has been what? "The Aethyrian verbal binding marriage contract," Vorel replied, as if reading from an ancient decree. "You spoke a marital declaration under Lumeris influence, in the presence of witnesses, directly to the sovereign. She accepted. The engagement is now legally irreversible unless dissolved through the Compatibility Protocol." "I wasn't declaring anything," Ethan hissed. "It was a stupid offhand comment. Humans talk casually, humans say things." "Aetherians do not," Vorel said. "Aetherians declare." "Fantastic." He was engaged to a queen because her species had no word for sarcasm. Ethan scrubbed a hand over his face. Okay, what is this Compatibility Protocol?" Vorel's eyes shimmered in mild disapproval, like a star dimming behind a passing cloud. 30 days of structured interaction to determine whether the marital bond will proceed to unification or be dissolved with honor. Shared meals. Joint decision-making trials. Emotional resonance assessments. Domestic aptitude evaluations. Domestic what? No, I didn't sign up for alien premarital cooking classes. "You did," Vorel corrected, verbally. Before Ethan could form a coherent protest, his comm tablet buzzed violently. Director Linford's face filled the screen, ashen, wide-eyed, looking as though he had aged 40 years in 5 minutes. "Ethan," Linford said through clenched teeth, "please tell me you didn't propose marriage to the ruler of the Aetherian sovereignty." "I did." The Queen made an announcement, a formal one with witnesses, and a ceremonial acceptance gesture. Ethan dragged his hands down his face. "It was a misunderstanding." "At interstellar scale," Linford added darkly. Vorel waited patiently, hands folded, as if Ethan's entire species collapsing into diplomatic crisis was merely a mild scheduling inconvenience. Linford exhaled sharply. "Ethan, listen to me very carefully. Aetherian engagement contracts are treated like political treaties. If you follow through with this marriage, you'll become a co-governing consort. If you don't, and the Queen interprets your words as insincere, it could spark a diplomatic meltdown," Ethan guessed. "Yes, at best." "Best, correct." Vorel lifted a hand. "Envoy Hale, Her Majesty awaits you in her private chambers for the first compatibility session. Attendance is not optional." Ethan stared at him. "I just met her." "You shared Lumeris under Starlight Witness," Vorel countered. "For Aetherians, that exceeds meeting. It approaches fate." Ethan turned helplessly toward Linford's frozen holofeed. "Director, what am I supposed to do?" Linford pinched the bridge of his nose. "At the moment, don't offend her. Don't contradict your own words. Don't start an interstellar incident. And for the love of Earth, don't accidentally propose to anyone else." Ethan shut the comm with a groan. Vorel gestured down a corridor of bioluminescent arches. "This way." As they walked, Ethan absorbed the surreal weight of his new reality. Less than an hour ago, he had been a junior envoy celebrating a successful negotiation. Now, he was apparently betrothed to a cosmic monarch whose eyes shifted colors like living starfields. And he had 30 days to somehow avoid ruining 2 civilizations. They reached a set of crystalline doors that unfolded like opening petals as the Queen's energy signature recognized Vorel's approach. Her private chambers glowed with warm nebula light, soft gradients of rose gold, violet, and deep blues drifting across the curved walls. Queen Aralyth Xyra stood at the center, hands clasped behind her back, posture relaxed yet unmistakably regal. Her eyes brightened as she saw Ethan, an emotional shade he suspected translated to either welcome or amusement. Possibly both. "Ethan," she said with that harmonic undertone that made his name feel like it resonated in his bones. "I trust you're settling into the implications of your proposal." "That is one word for it," Ethan muttered. Aralyth approached him with slow, fluid grace. "I understand your people do not treat spoken commitments with the same gravity as we do. I will not hold that against you." "Oh, thank God." "But," she continued softly, "I accepted because I sensed sincerity behind your words." Ethan's heart kicked. I wasn't." She raised a hand, silencing him with a gesture so gentle yet absolute that he forgot how to speak. "Do not fear," she said. "The next 30 days exist so both of us may choose freely. Nothing is forced." Ethan had never been inside a monarch's private quarters before, much less one belonging to a species whose architecture was rumored to respond to emotional resonance. Now he understood why. The room seemed to breathe. As he followed Aralyth across the softly glowing floor, nebula patterns shifted beneath his steps, responding to the foreign energy of a human presence. It felt both intimate and overwhelming, like walking inside someone's heartbeat. "Your people prefer controlled environments," Aralyth said, motioning for him to sit in a seat that molded itself to his shape. "Aetherian spaces grow with us. They reveal what we feel." Ethan tried not to imagine what the room might reveal about his current state, which was a chaotic storm of panic, awe, and something dangerously close to fascination. Vorel positioned himself near the doorway like a silent sentinel. "The first compatibility session will begin now," he announced. "Emotional transparency assessment." Ethan choked. "Emotional what?" Aralyth's lips curved in amusement. "It's merely conversation, Ethan. We speak, we listen, we learn." "That sounds suspiciously simple," he murmured. "Most profound things are." She sat across from him, posture relaxed yet impossibly elegant, her cosmic-patterned skin glowing with shifting lavender undertones. He wondered if that color meant calm or concern. He wondered when he'd start knowing the difference without asking. "Begin," Vorel instructed. Aralyth folded her hands in her lap. "Ethan, when you spoke those words earlier, you'd make a cute wife. What did you feel in that moment?" Ethan nearly slid out of his chair. Mortification, embarrassment, sudden desire to leap into an airlock. Her eyes warmed. "Before that," he swallowed, "I was comfortable talking with you more than expected. It felt like I was speaking to a person, not a queen." Aralyth's eyes deepened into a soft gold. "That is rare. Talking comfortably. Being seen." The room glowed faintly brighter as if agreeing. They continued, her questions gentle but piercing in their clarity. What did he value in partnership? How did he respond to conflict? What frightened him most? Not professionally, but personally. Ethan found himself answering honestly despite every diplomatic instinct screaming at him to remain guarded. Something about the environment, or the Lumeris still lingering in his system, or simply the way Aralyth listened, fully, patiently, with genuine curiosity, pulled truth out of him like gravity. When he spoke about losing his mother young and learning to bury emotion behind responsibility, Aralyth's gaze softened with a resonance he didn't understand but felt. When he admitted he feared disappointing others more than failing himself, her cosmic patterns flickered with tender recognition. At one point he caught Vorel watching him, eyes narrowed thoughtfully. It was unnerving. Ethan leaned closer to Aralyth and whispered, "Is he judging me?" "He is observing," she said. "Judgment is reserved for later stages." "Later stages." Her laughter was like soft stardust falling on crystal. "Do not be alarmed. Our tradition is designed to reveal compatibility, not punish incompatibility. But if we're incompatible, then we dissolve the contract with honor," she said gently, "and return to our diplomatic roles." Right, simple. Except Ethan now knew he didn't want to disappoint her. That realization hit harder than he expected. After an hour of emotional exposure, Vorel finally nodded. Assessment complete. He stepped aside, allowing the walls of the chamber to shift again. A table grew from the floor, crystalline, shimmering with faint galaxies trapped within its surface. "Now," Aralyth said, "the second assessment, cooperative reasoning." Ethan exhaled. Logic. He could do logic. Logic didn't have feelings or starlight eyes or skin that looked like living nebulae. A holographic map flickered to life. "A trade dispute scenario," Aralyth explained. 3 Aetherian colonies, limited routes, resource scarcity, competing interests. We must propose a joint resolution. "You mean we have to solve alien space politics together as a couple exercise?" "Yes." She offered a small smile. "Consider it a glimpse into married life." Ethan groaned softly. No pressure. But as they worked, something unexpected happened, something startlingly comfortable. Aralyth listened. She challenged his ideas respectfully. She expanded his strategies with perspectives he couldn't have imagined. And she seemed genuinely delighted when he solved a logistical snag she hadn't foreseen. Her eyes brightened with admiration, actual admiration, for his reasoning. No one in human diplomacy had ever looked at him that way. When they presented their joint solution, Voral's expression shifted by a measurable degree, from neutral judgment to mild approval. Compatibility noted, he said. Ethan felt absurdly proud of himself. As Voral exited, leaving them in relative privacy, Aralyth turned to him. You adapt quickly for someone unprepared. Unprepared is an understatement. Yet you meet each challenge with sincerity. Her voice softened. That is rare in governance and rarer in courtship. Ethan felt warmth creep into his chest, unwelcome but persistent. Aralyth, you weren't upset earlier. When I said what I said. Upset, she looked genuinely puzzled. You spoke truth. Truth is never upsetting. It was careless. Careless truth is still truth. She tilted her head, cosmic patterns shimmering. Ethan, do you regret it? He hesitated. He wanted to say yes, should say yes, but the words didn't come. Aralyth watched him closely. That is answer enough. Before he could respond, a soft chime echoed through the chambers, a signal from the central palace network. Aralyth exhaled. The council requests a briefing regarding our engagement. They will want assurances. They will test boundaries. Test boundaries how? With questions, with pressure, with insinuations that your species lacks the refinement or emotional sophistication required for royal bonding. Ethan blinked. Wow, okay, harsh. Do not fear, she said, rising gracefully. You will not face them alone. She extended her hand, not ceremonial, not formal, but personal. Ethan took it before thinking. The room brightened, the walls rippling with gentle starlight in acknowledgement. The council chamber of the Starborne Citadel was nothing like Earth's political halls. Human governments preferred rigid architecture, straight lines, podiums, structured geometry. Aethyrians preferred fluidity. Their chamber looked like a swirling pocket of space torn from a nebula, with luminous platforms drifting at varying heights. The counselors themselves shimmered with elder resonance patterns, their skin etched with constellations that marked centuries of service. Ethan had never felt more out of place in his life. Aralyth led him toward the central platform. She carried no crown, no weapon, no ceremonial staff, only confidence etched in the curve of her shoulders and the calm pulse of her cosmic patterns. Ethan realized with a quiet jolt that she didn't need regalia. She was the regalia. Authority radiated from her as naturally as starlight. The counselor's eyes, shifted through colored spectrums, focused on Ethan the way scientists might study an anomalous meteor. Queen Aralyth, intoned Elder Counselor Salith, her resonance deep as distant thunder. We wish to address the matter of your unexpected engagement. Aralyth inclined her head. Of course. And the human, Salith added, gaze flicking to Ethan. A species whose emotional structures are volatile, whose diplomatic history is young, whose understanding of binding law is evidently non-existent. Ethan smiled weakly. We do our best. A few counselors let out disapproving hums. Aralyth stepped forward. Envoy Hale spoke in truth under Lumeris witness. I accepted. The contract is valid. Valid, yes, said another counselor, but wise. Humans are impulsive, undisciplined. Their lifespans are fleeting, their loyalty questionable. I'm right here, Ethan whispered. Aralyth didn't blink. Your objections are noted, but irrelevant. Not irrelevant, Salith countered. Should the bond proceed, this human becomes co-governing consort. His decisions will shape Aetherian futures. His flaws will become our burdens. Ethan's palms dampened. This was going wonderfully. Aralyth's voice sharpened, not loud, but carrying the controlled precision of a collapsing star. You assume fragility where there is adaptability. You assume ignorance where there is curiosity. You assume weakness where there is humility. Silence rippled across the chamber. He has shown more intellectual flexibility in hours than some counselors display in decades, she continued. He listens, he learns, he reasons without arrogance. These are the traits of a worthy partner, politically or personally. Ethan felt something warm and disorienting coil in his chest. Being defended by a cosmic monarch was not an experience he'd prepared for. Salith studied him. Very well, let the human speak. Let him declare his intentions. Ethan's breath caught. My intentions. Aralyth looked at him, and for the first time her eyes didn't instruct or guide. They asked, do you want to speak? And somehow he knew he did. Ethan stepped forward. His voice shook only slightly. I know this contract wasn't meant to happen. Not by me, not by Earth, not by any diplomatic plan. But I'm not here to exploit your queen or your people. I'm not here to weaken your culture or claim power I don't deserve. The counselors listened, still as carved starlight. I'm here because, whether I meant to or not, I made a commitment that she accepted. And I won't disrespect that. Not her, not your traditions, not the trust implied by this situation. Aralyth's patterns pulsed softly, a color Ethan was starting to recognize as approval. So, he finished, I'll participate honestly in the Compatibility Protocol. I'll give it my best effort. And if at the end of 30 days the Queen and I choose not to proceed, it will be with mutual respect. No deceit, no dishonor. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then an elder counselor hummed in a low, surprising tone of acknowledgement. Another followed. A third flickered their resonance in cautious approval. Aralyth inclined her head. A rare quality in humans, restraint, acceptable. Ethan exhaled shakily. Aralyth stepped closer to him, not touching, but standing near enough that the warmth of her presence steadied him. The council may observe but not interfere with our protocol. Aralyth bowed, as tradition demands. When the session adjourned, Ethan felt like he'd walked through a hurricane of expectations and somehow stayed upright. As they left the chamber, Aralyth spoke quietly. You handled yourself well. I was trying not to throw up, Ethan admitted. That, too, would have been honest, she said with a faint smile. Back in the corridor, with only drifting lanterns as witnesses, Aralyth paused. Ethan, the counselors can be severe. Their concerns arise from loyalty, not cruelty. I get that, he replied. I also get that they don't think I'm good enough for you. That is not their decision. He hesitated. What about you? Do you think I'm good enough? Her eyes softened into a hue like dawn breaking over stardust plains. I think you possess qualities that intrigue me, and others I wish to understand. Compatibility is not proven in a single day. Good, Ethan breathed, because I think I forgot how days work. Aralyth stepped closer, just slightly, but enough that he felt the warmth of her cosmic aura brush his skin like a whispered promise. Then tomorrow, she said, we continue. The next assessment is intellectual alignment, policy. Ethan quickly learned that intellectual alignment assessment meant something far more intense than policy discussion. Aethyrian evaluation chambers shifted according to mental output, reshaping themselves in response to the cognitive resonance of the participants, which meant the room literally changed its architecture depending on how well he and Aralyth thought together. No pressure. When Ethan stepped into the chamber, the walls were dim, muted, anxious almost. The crystalline structures that usually glowed with soft nebula light were dormant, waiting. Aralyth stood at the center, her patterns subdued but steady. Do not worry, she said. The chamber reflects connection, not perfection. Well, Ethan muttered, it's about to reflect a whole lot of confusion. Aralyth smiled faintly. Then I will meet you in confusion. The exercise began with a hologram blooming above them. A multi-system trade dispute spanning 5-star routes, resource shortages, a failing diplomatic agreement, and 3 rebel factions with conflicting demands. Ethan stared at it. Is this a whole war? A simulated one, Aralyth said. We must propose a unified strategy. Ethan murmured. And how often do Aetherian couples do this kind of thing? Only those seeking lifelong union. Oh, perfect, excellent, completely normal. Aralyth tilted her head. You may begin whenever you are ready. He wasn't ready, but he tried anyway. You're prioritizing stability of the outer colonies, she observed as she watched his projected solution appear on the holomap. Why? Because if the edges collapse, the core destabilizes next, he said. Empires fall from their borders inward, not the other way around. Her eyes brightened. You speak as though you have studied imperial decline. Earth has a long history of messing things up, Ethan said. We've learned a few things. As they worked, something strange happened, something subtle but unmistakable. The chamber responded, walls brightened. Ceilings expanded into sweeping cosmic arcs. The floor's nebula patterns glowed beneath their feet. Aralyth noticed it too. The alignment increases, she murmured. They leaned over the map together. Ethan explained how rotating trade incentives could placate rebellious sectors without appearing to capitulate. Aralyth counterbalanced with Aetherian cultural honor codes to avoid sparking insult-based uprisings. They built on each other's reasoning, layer by layer, until the scenario no longer felt like alien chaos, but a puzzle they were solving as one. At one point, Ethan suggested moving a diplomatic envoy to a contested region. Aralyth paused. Something flickered across her features, surprise, then admiration. That strategy, she said softly, is almost precisely what I implemented 2 cycles ago. Ethan blinked, really. Yes, and you arrived at it intuitively, without cultural reference. The chamber brightened further. High above, crystalline branches unfurled like glowing cosmic flowers. Ethan laughed under his breath. If this room gets any happier, it's going to start singing. It may, Aralyth replied seriously, if alignment peaks. Oh God, there's a peak. Does it explode? Should I be wearing safety gear? Her lips curved. No explosion. Only confirmation. Confirmation of what? Aralyth stepped closer, her resonance softening into something intimate. Compatibility. Ethan's heart stuttered. Vorel entered then, silent as a shadow, robes trailing cosmic dust. Assessment complete, he announced. High compatibility detected. Ethan froze, high, significantly above standard thresholds. Aralyth folded her hands behind her back, but her patterns brightened in unmistakable satisfaction. As I expected. You expected, Ethan sputtered. You thought we'd match this well. I sensed potential. You sensed potential from me saying you'd make a cute wife. It was a truth spoken freely, she said. Truth is the foundation of every union. Vorel cleared his throat. There is another matter. Earth has sent a transmission requesting clarification regarding Envoy Hale's loyalty. Ethan groaned. Of course they have. Aralyth's eyes cooled slightly. Explain. Vorel activated the transmission. Director Linford appeared, flanked by two human diplomats wearing equally distressed expressions. Ethan, Linford said, we need to know whether your engagement compromises your role as representative of Earth. What compromise? Ethan repeated. I'm accidentally engaged, not defecting. Intent doesn't matter, Linford said. Perception does. Are you still acting in the best interests of humanity? Aralyth straightened, her presence shifting from warm companion to sovereign monarch. Envoy Hale has conducted himself with integrity. His counsel benefits both our peoples. His judgment is independent. Your Majesty, one diplomat began carefully. With respect, marriage implies personal loyalty. Shared rule implies political loyalty. That complicates matters. Ethan exhaled slowly, stepping forward. Director, listen. I'm not abandoning Earth. I'm not choosing sides. I'm trying to prevent a cultural disaster because my mouth got ahead of my brain. You say that like it's unusual, Linford muttered. Ethan continued, but I'm not being coerced. Aralyth isn't forcing anything. These 30 days are about choice, mutual choice. Aralyth looked at him with a softness that made his chest tighten. Yes, she said quietly, they are. Linford sighed, very well. Earth will withhold judgment until the protocol ends. But Ethan, don't make this worse. That's the plan, Ethan said. Transmission ended. Silence settled, soft, heavy, intimate. Aralyth turned to him. You spoke with conviction. I spoke because you deserved clarity, he said. Something like starlight passed through her patterns, warm and bright. Ethan, she said softly, do you know what I told my advisors when I announced I would commit to the protocol? He shook his head. That for the first time in my rulership I felt hopeful. The word hit him like a pulse of gravity. Hopeful, because of him. Before Ethan could respond, Vorel approached. Tomorrow's assessment will be interpersonal resonance testing. Interpersonal what now? Ethan asked wearily. Aralyth stepped closer, voice lowering to something that brushed warm against his senses. It measures how we affect one another. Emotionally, energetically, physically. Ethan swallowed hard, physically. In proximity, she claimed. The final day of the Compatibility Protocol arrived like a quiet dawn. No trumpets, no ceremonial alarms, just a subtle shift in the ship's atmosphere, as though the Starborne Citadel itself understood the gravity of what was about to happen. Ethan stood by the panoramic viewport in his temporary quarters, gazing out at a swirling ribbon of cosmic dust outside. 30 days ago, he had been a junior diplomat celebrating a trade agreement. Now he was preparing to decide whether to marry an alien queen. And the strangest part wasn't the absurdity of the situation. It was that his heart already knew the answer. A soft chime echoed. The door parted. Aralyth stepped inside without her usual ceremonial presence. No regal posture, no formal expression. She looked human in a way Ethan didn't expect. Not physically, of course. Her cosmic patterns still danced under her skin, her posture still held the elegance of a starborn sovereign, but emotionally. Vulnerable, hopeful, real. Ethan, she said, her voice softened to something that bypassed his mind and went directly to the part of him that had grown dangerously attached to her. It is time. He nodded, are you nervous? She considered the question. No ruler wishes to admit it, she said quietly, but yes. Not because of the decision, but because the decision is yours as much as mine. That struck him harder than any political pressure he'd felt during these 30 days. She wasn't worried about her empire or her council. She was worried about him. Aralyth, I need to know something before we go out there. She stepped closer, asked, when this whole thing started, when I made that stupid comment and you accepted, were you planning it? Hoping for it. Her eyes dimmed to a thoughtful violet. I did not plan your words, but I created an environment where truth could emerge freely. You spoke honestly. I responded honestly. So you nudged it. I allowed possibility, she corrected. But what grew afterward, your choices, your reasoning, your heart, none of that was orchestrated. Ethan swallowed. Somehow that mattered more than he expected. Thank you, he said. For what? For not pretending this wasn't complicated. She smiled, small, genuine, and devastatingly gentle. Complexity does not diminish sincerity. A moment passed between them, warm and fragile. Then she extended her hand. He took it. The ceremonial hall had transformed for the bonding declaration. Crystalline platforms spiraled upward like blooming galaxies, each humming softly with the resonance of the counselors and witnesses. Humans watched through holofeeds. Aethyrian nobles lined the elevated rings, their patterns glowing with anticipation. High Seneschal Vorel stood at the center, radiating solemn authority. Queen Aralyth Xyra, he intoned, and envoy Ethan Hale. You have completed the 30-day protocol. You now stand at the crossroads of dissolution or unification. Speak your decisions. Aralyth went first. She didn't look at the council, or the nobles, or the hovering recorders. She looked only at Ethan. 30 days ago, she began, I accepted Ethan's spontaneous proposal because it carried a truth I had longed to hear, not as a queen, but as a woman. These days have shown me a partner who listens, reasons, challenges, and cares with sincerity. I do not choose him because tradition permits it or politics encourage it. I choose him because I wish to walk the future beside him. Her patterns flared in warm, radiant gold. I choose unification. Vorel turned to Ethan, his heart hammered but his voice came out steady. 30 days ago I was terrified, he admitted, and confused, and pretty sure I'd triggered a diplomatic extinction event. But every day since then, you've shown me something I didn't expect. Someone who carries the weight of a civilization but still makes room for honesty, for humor, for connection. He exhaled slowly. I came into this wanting escape. I'm standing here wanting partnership, not because I have to, because I choose you. He lifted his chin. I choose unification. A wave of harmonic resonance swept through the chamber, the Aethyrian equivalent of applause. Crystal lattices shimmered overhead, responding to the emotional frequency of the moment. Light cascaded down like falling stardust. Vorel raised his hands. Then by sovereign law and cosmic witness I bind your choices. Let the union begin. There was no kiss. Aetherian ceremony did not emphasize public affection. Instead, Aralyth stepped forward until their foreheads touched, bridging the space between their species with the simplest, most profound form of contact in her culture. A soft warmth flowed from her into him. A resonance. A promise. When they parted, her voice was a whisper just for him. Welcome home, Ethan. He smiled. We're exactly as home now. She intertwined her fingers with his. Wherever we decide to build it. As they walked together through the luminous hall, Ethan realized something astonishing. This hadn't been an accidental proposal. Not anymore. It was a choice, mutual